Okay, back with Mark Fleming. He's going to talk about some of the great shooters in professional wrestling in the 80s.
Yeah, some of the best shooters that were around when I was coming up was Mike Rotundo, wrestled for Syracuse.
Yeah.
He played football for him and he wrestled for him, and he was
the captain of the wrestling team.
Yeah, he was a shooter.
Yeah.
Wasn't a big guy, probably weighed 220 at the most.
Yeah.
A guy who was lean, he could wrestle.
Yeah.
Don Cornado could wrestle. He was an arm wrestling champion too, of the East Coast, but he could wrestle.
Did you ever know Bob Roop?
Wrestled Bob Roop one time.
Yeah, he's supposed to be a really good wrestler.
Was in the Olympics.
Yeah, yeah. He's writing Frankie Kane's book.
Bob Backlund, never wrestled him, but knew him, met him, was around him a little bit. He wrestled a short stint for the NWA, for Crockett Promotions, and he was a heck of a wrestler.
Yeah.
Of course, Jack and Jerry Briscoe, I was around them a lot. Jack Briscoe was an NCAA champion out of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Jerry Briscoe was just as good of a wrestler. A lot of people don't know that. He was a little tough guy too.
Yeah.
Both of them were tough as nails.
Yeah.
They didn't have the big muscles and the big bodies and all that.
They didn't need it.
They didn't need it.
Yeah.
They would stretch you from here to Kingdom Come, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
This other guy, he's not well known, was Larry Lane. This guy was from Texas.
Sweet Stan Lane?
Nope. I wrestled Stan Lane, but no, different.
Okay.
This guy was an older guy. Tough guy, man. Just could stretch you. Ricky Steamboat could wrestle.
He was an amateur too, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ricky Steamboat could wrestle.
What about Arn Anderson?
Arn Anderson could wrestle a little bit. Was more of a tough guy.
Yeah, because I was talking to Arn Anderson about the book, and he was telling me he doesn't like so much the UFC because the jiu-jitsu stuff bores him, like the guys on their back. He says it looks like a work to him.
Yeah. But it was a lot. I even knew Wally Dusick, old time. He was a very old man at the time he spoke the rings, but I used to talk to him about wrestling.
Yeah.
And he was, in his day, he was something. He wrestled back in Lou's era.
Was Frankie Kane still in it? Still
Frankie
in
Kane
NWA?
was not wrestling for the Crockett Promotions when I was there.
No.
No.
Because he's a great shooter as well.
Yeah, Frankie Kane is a hell of a wrestler. He was a boxer too.
Yeah, he did boxing in the carnivals.
Yep.
Yep, and professional boxing
and then Billy Wicks. I've heard Lou talk about Billy Wicks.
Yeah, Billy Wicks is the guy who we just interviewed, and I've wrestled a lot at his school that he founded. Billy Wicks is a very good hooker shooter.
Lou respected Billy Wicks. He told me one time, he says, that guy could go.
Yeah.
That guy, and I really didn't know who Billy Wicks was at the time.
Yeah.
But he told me, he said, this guy can go.
Yeah. Danny Hodge?
Danny Hodge. I knew Danny Hodge, and I worked out with Danny Hodge.
Yeah.
He showed me some stuff, of all places, in the lobby of the Kyo Plaza in Tokyo, Japan. And he was showing me and a guy named Gary Albright.
I know Gary Albright. Okay. Gary Albright was a great wrestler,
was
too.
a great wrestler from Nebraska.
Yeah.
Crazy guy, big, strong guy, not muscular, but just naturally strong. Was a Greco guy.
He's a great suplexes.
Yes. And him and myself were together in Japan, and we always worked out together. He was always my partner, training partner.
Yeah.
And Danny Hodge showed us some moves and some different stuff right there in the lobby. And then, of course, at the dojo there, too, also. But Danny Hodge was something. He had the strongest hands I've ever seen.
Yeah, they talk about him crushing apples and taking a pair of pliers.
Yeah.
I think it was Wade Chalice talked about him taking a pair of pliers and just ripping them when he was a kid doing that.
And I also had the opportunity to work out with Billy Robinson in the ring in Japan. Of course, he wasn't, in the shape he's in now.
He helped train Josh Barnett and Eric Paulson.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But he was something too. He was a good hooker.
Yeah, he came out of the Snake Pit, Riley's Snake Pit. He was a British national amateur champion.
Never met Carl Gotch. I've heard Lou talk about him. I know he's a great wrestler. I never got a chance to meet him.
Yeah. What about old Kozlo, Iron Sheik?
I've wrestled on the same card as he's been on and traveled with him. And I know he lived with Lou for a little while when he was for Lou training, really.
Yeah.
And
for professional, but he was an AAU national champion.
Sure.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's why Lou trained him, because
Yeah.
Lou was like this. If you couldn't wrestle, he wouldn't mess with you.
Yeah.
If you were a gimmick, he wouldn't mess with you. If you were a muscle head and you couldn't wrestle, if you were a muscle head and could wrestle, that's fine.
Yeah.
But if you were just this big steroid guy with a gimmick and couldn't wrestle, he wouldn't mess
He
with
didn't
you.
want to mess with you.
He only took on guys that could wrestle.
Now, speaking of Lou Thez, did Lou ever talk to you about Buddy Rogers? Because they say Buddy Rogers was not a great wrestler, but he was one of the first guys to hold the belt that really couldn't protect it. That's what some of the stuff I've read.
Yeah, I've heard that. Lou said he was a great guy, nice man, hell of an athlete.
Yeah.
Not a wrestler.
Yeah.
Showman. He was a showman.
Yeah, and he may have been the first showman because they always had to have guys that could protect it so they didn't get shot on.
Yeah, he was a showman. He wasn't a great wrestler. I have met Dick Hutton.
Yeah.
Dick Hutton was a heck of a wrestler. Lou introduced me to him at the Wrestling Hall of Fame, and I had a chance to talk to him several times on different occasions about wrestling and all that. And he was a great wrestler. He just didn't have the color for professional.
Yeah. A lot of guys don't.
And I knew Pat O'Connor also. And I would talk to these guys. I would get them aside and talk to them about wrestling. And they would open up to you. If they knew you knew what you were talking about wrestling. Yeah. And Pat O'Connor made some money in his business. He had color, and he was a hell of a wrestler. And Lou talked highly of Pat O'Connor.
Yeah. Was Steiner Rick?
I wrestled Rick Steiner.
Yeah.
I wrestled Rick Steiner on a couple occasions. Rick Steiner's a hell of a wrestler. Better than Scott.
Yeah.
Scott was a heck of a wrestler too.
So you feel Rick was better? I never figured out which one was
really
better.
Fair to say, because I never wrestled Scott Steiner. I've heard that he was a great amateur wrestler. I just know more about Rick.
I think they both did as well. They were both All-Americans. I think Scotty was third in the Nationals, and I think Rick was like fourth or fifth in the Nationals. But it doesn't necessarily matter.
Right.
They were different weight classes, I think.
Right.
Different
and,
years.
Rick Steiner was a good wrestler.
Yeah.
He was a good wrestler.
Yeah. So next we're going to talk about Japan and the differences between Japanese and American wrestling.